All right, thank you. So for today, unfortunately, Rafael cannot be here, so I'll be the one who'll do my best to entertain you guys as well as do the scope discussion. So for today, we are going to talk about the governance scope, and we have to actually have another section on governance scope. So for today, we don't have a guest speaker, but I think that will still give us a little more time to talk about some of the needed parts, and then we can cover the rest next time as well. Okay, Bijan say I'm not sure what we'll talk about general scope coverage. Okay. So even before we talk about the governance scope, so one of the delegates, Blue, has prepared. So it's in the end, which is like he had the interviews with, he or she had the interviews with 5 HR professionals, and then it was about the discussion for peer-to-peer recruitment of council members. As I don't think that it was something that's biased per se, nor is it like infringe upon alignment. I thought that it was okay for Blue to present. So maybe we can start with that actually. Blue, is it possible for you to present?
Yeah, I'll just get you added as a co-host so you can try and present your video.
Yeah, thanks, Patrick.
Okay, should be good to go.
All right, yeah, we can see the okay, is it supposed to have a sound or? Maybe if you don't mind, you can also share the link to the chat maybe so that, I mean, yeah. Okay, let me go first, see whether it's a virus. Seems okay.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present on this AVC meeting. We are Blue. We have observed there might be a challenge in locating the right talent for the councils. Today's presentation will explore peer-to-peer recruitment as one potential solution to this issue. While we will maintain a high-level overview of how this suggestion could be applied to MakerDAO in this presentation, a link to the in-depth supporting research will be made available should the AVC find it relevant to dig deeper. Peer-to-peer recruitment seeks to leverage the power of MakerDAO's community and crypto Twitter. Instead of relying solely on headhunters and traditional job advertisements, it aims to put industry insiders in the driver's seat of recruitment by applying a lucrative finder's fee to the individual who successfully introduces the candidate who ultimately does the job. Up to this point, It seems there has not been a structured recruitment process to identify and interview council members. This research aims to shed light on this issue, potentially providing MakerDAO with components to structure its recruitment process. One of our hypotheses is that top talent, those with expertise in crypto, often operate within the same circles. The peer-to-peer model expands the talent pool beyond just relying on headhunters by leveraging the MakerDAO community and crypto Twitter. The optimistic long-term goal is for MakerDAO to get support to develop its scopes by the best experts in the world. For this to happen through peer-to-peer recruitment, a number of stakeholders must be engaged. The AVCs help set the direction. The delegates help do research and put in some of the work that needs to be done. The domain experts, like for example strategic finance or risk, help define the tasks that need to be accomplished by the experts and specify the skills that these experts are expected to possess. Growth promotes the opportunity on Twitter. The matchmakers identify and recommend experts. The experts are drinking mojitos, waiting to be discovered. The interviewers facilitate the interviews and testing. Having an idea for a solution is one thing. Conducting research to envision its practical application is another. We meticulously map the process flow step by step to assess its feasibility. Before this presentation, we introduced this setup and flow to 5 HR professionals, asking them to assist us in drafting a pre-mortem by imagining that the project had failed and detailing the problems that led to this outcome. Their feedback was transformed into how might we questions to reframe the problems into opportunities. Ideas for solutions to these how might we questions were then proposed by ChatGPT just to serve as a starting point. After this presentation, we suggest that the AVC discuss the concept of peer-to-peer recruitment. If there's interest in digging deeper, the underlying research is available here. Thank you for listening.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and that was impressive. And then, of course, it's up to, I'll say, the Alpha team. But I think those are okay. That meaning that I don't think those are necessarily biased. It's more of ways to improve the process. But if you deem it a little bit closely, do let us know, because we're still trying to explore it. So, but yeah, I think that maybe we. So I actually want to talk about scope as well, but I guess since it's still fresh in our minds, I think we can also talk about the concept as well. So one thing that was kind of interesting is like, so having the kind of so we have a lot of things that are peer-to-peer, right? So I know, for example, like even for crypto projects to even more, I would say like Web2, like Wikipedia and others, there are a lot of peer-to-peer elements. Although it does kind of beg the question whether crypto Twitter necessarily knows much about Maker. I would say DJ Spartan probably knows Maker because he doesn't like us. But beside them, like I'm not really sure like whether they have the expertise per se. But I guess beyond Twitter, like having those, or it can almost like be an advisor, right? Like list of advisors that can, for example, give such recommendations, and among them they can kind of come with common understanding. But yeah, so I think there's no definite answer per se, but it's definitely something interesting to think about. Anybody have any? Okay, True Name said, we think this video that we watched is also very in line with deep refi and resiliency about AC processing. Maybe we share your video with them. That is up to Blue. But yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Blue say you can share it. Anybody has any thoughts to it? Like, it can like not just I think about this one specifically. Like, do you think that you also want to prepare something like that in the future? Like, just curious. And also, like, this is a question for Blue, but did it take a long time to prepare this, or was it like doable? 10 hours, 15 hours. Okay, so that is a lot of work. Thank you for your service. But yeah, that is quite cool. All right, then, really, if Rafael is here, I'll ask him for his opinion as well. But anybody else has any thoughts or questions or okay, Bono Republic State. We agree it's difficult to find experts on Twitter, but it's worth a try. Combination of professional recruiters and peer-to-peer could lead to a good outcome. That is also true. Yes, we can have a, I would say, like a cloud of different experts or perspectives, right? Might be interesting. All right. So then beyond that, I think that we can go back to the scope because I think that is also good to talk about the scope, and then if needed, we can finish early, and then we can go back and then enjoy our pancakes or other things that we enjoy. Right. So for this one, I wrote down like, so I just copied from the, the scope, and then it covers a lot, and I know that it has changed some of the existing ones, including like how delegates function and others. I don't think that for us is to talk about some of the amendments here. From what I understand, it's more about like focusing on the advisor side. So if you as a delegate wants to talk about like some of the parts beyond the advisor, like let me know. It's just that it's kind of my understanding that that part is beyond what we're supposed to do. So. All right. Well, seems like nobody has other questions about it. Also, okay, so I'm sorry, Patrick, but this is more question for you. But so we're supposed to have 2 calls for this governance scope. Are they supposed to be very, very different, or because I know that some of the scopes got merged, right? So are we supposed to like separate them and then talk about each one? Because for example, for this one, there was one about governance security, and another was the arbitration scope, right? Like, are we supposed to separate them and then talk about it, or?
So what I would maybe suggest is you do your first call, then you might make a start on your position document, and then your second call could review the position document and the scope. So you've kind of got that added input for that call.
Okay.
But they should cover the whole scope is in scope for each call.
Yeah, I must admit that my IQ is not high enough to understand truly what is position document so far, but I'm trying. And then, okay, for this one, we'll figure out, don't worry. I will try my best so that we don't get derecognized everyone. So, don't worry. But yes, we'll definitely also work on that. It's just kind of my understanding that for position document, it was not about like changing amendments here and there. It was more about like how we can work on like specific scope. And then I think that was also the part that I wanted to kind of bring up in the end, right? So if you guys saw the document, it's on 12.4, which is like ABC Advisory Council focus. So in here it says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically in the bootstrapping, until the scope improvement articles of each scope artifact is well developed, ABCs must focus on making online scope proposals that improve the scope improvement articles, right? And then it says ADs must not follow instructions by ABCs through aligned governance strategies or aligned scope proposals that cover subjects other than improvements to the scope improvement articles or scope advisory council. Okay. So is the scope improvement articles basically like potential amendments to the alignment document? Anyway, I think this is something that we have to kind of figure out because it has kind of changed, but we have to kind of figure out before the quarter ends. So we'll. All right. So now onto the console side. So we had a lot of different like ideas. I know Rafael also has shared with the delegates as well as the ABC about some of the ideas that has been happening. Did delegates get a chance to read about them, by the way? If not, let me find it. Okay, I see that it was shared. Yes, thank you. Okay, upon recruiter, add a few lines to recruitment. Okay. Yep. So based on the newly passed, this is the focus for our ABC. I guess now we have to change the name to ABC because it has changed. Let me do that. But yeah. So if you have any feedbacks, please give. Yeah, and then I think that you can do something similar to what the Bonar Republica did, which is so let me. So actually don't know whether that's the permission, but you guys can make comments, right? Can you guys also edit, by the way, on the document? Yeah, I mean, it's my understanding that the farthest you can do is comment. But yeah, so feel free to give comments, and then we'll of course appreciate it. But let's talk about some of the, especially regarding governance scope, right? So in terms of governance scope, this was a little bit tricky, I thought, because in traditional field, there's no really a company that works on governance, as in like DAO governance, right? Like usually it's for either legal resolution or for, let's say, like politics, right? So it's possible that within here we might have to look for entities that know about governance or focus on governance. So it's likely to be Web3, but also kind of curious from delegate side, like is it something that you feel like that the traditional like governance can be useful? Like for example, like some of the professors or entities that has been dealing with traditional governance to do some research on this, or being an advisor, like do you think that that's of interest? Okay, no separate comments from delegates. That's quite good. I think the discussion last week was spot on when interviewing the US. Yes. Actually, talking about governance, scope, Patrick is the one that should be, I think, in our guest speaker talking about it. Maybe Patrick, would you mind if you share some about at least like the operation so far, and then some of the areas that maybe can be improved by having, for example, advisors? If you don't feel comfortable, don't worry, but just curious whether you can comment on it.
If you want me to present on a call, I need more notice than the day of the call. Like, I need to prepare. So I'm not going to speak on this call, but I can speak on the next one.
No. I didn't mean that you have to present, but it's okay. I just meant that like just maybe sharing some thoughts, but don't worry. All right, so Blue was talking about that. He enjoyed the talk with the DUX, like Dennis. So, okay, knowledge about the skills required by the council members. So we would need to find a person like Dennis for his school. So, yes, so people like, for example, Patrick. I feel like that I should make a reservation for Patrick's presentation for our ABC. Hopefully he can bless us with his presence. So I will definitely, so Rafa, I will definitely try to approach it. Yes. All right. Then for today, especially since that it kind of became one, when we street for the comments. I think keep it short then. So once again, like Rafael and I, we've been working on the advisory selection process. So do make comments, and I believe that this is something that we just need to do for our ABC. Okay, and then okay, both readers said, do you think it's possible to add a technical interview to that process? We need a way to verify what they say is true. Sorry, both readers, what do you mean by what they, like who's they here? You mean the experts? Like, you mean like, for example, when the UX team was presenting about it, like, are you saying that whether what they say is true, or what do you mean? No, either way, I do agree with you guys that I think girls that for especially scope, I think it makes sense to have those, especially like related contributors to the ABC calls, because they are the ones that know the most and also probably understand what are some of the pain points and some of the areas that need to be covered. Okay, so Bona Republica said, no, it's not necessary to hire governance experts for the governance scope, but you do need experts that should demonstrate a solid understanding of MakerDAO ecosystem and process, I don't know, and have relevant skills and experience to contribute effectively. Okay, so I think Bona Republica is saying that in response to my question about, okay, do we need to have people who are like knowledgeable about DAOs, not necessarily all DAOs, but at least understanding of MakerDAO ecosystem. We want to ask what is relevant. Actually, that's also a good conversation to have. Like, okay, what is the relevant skills and experience in governance scope in the first place? The governance scope, initially, it was governance security and arbitration, right? So you do need people who knows, for example, about like check and balances and how DAO works, how voting works. As well as like maybe some aspect of philosophical, right? Like ethics and ideals and things like that, maybe. All right. Governance security may have flowed into protocol. Hard to tell, by the way. Yep, that's true. I guess I just meant that like in the previous version that was under it, but okay. And then Frontier Research said governance expertise seems relevant for advisor concept for the governance scope. Ideally, we would get experts, absolutely. If they don't understand DAOs going on, like what's going on in DAOs, they won't be able to add much value. That is true. Although it is actually hard to find people who understand DAOs, especially in like Web 2. So it's mostly Web 3 plus some of the frontier consulting groups usually understand better generally. Blue also said Danny's point was the people from Maker could provide the first take on the skills needed. And from there, we could look for externals. Okay. Yes, that's true. So I think it's also a good lesson for us because it seems like that for next governance call, having Patrick or especially related contributors will help us with some of the guidelines and some of the pain points. So, all right. Anything else that we want to discuss? Because I don't mind closing the call a bit early. Also, if we missed any important things that we discussed, because I remember last time, like, because I remember it was, Visual who posted it, but maybe I was mistaken because they said there are some parts that we need to cover in governance scope. But maybe I need to go and find it again. I mean, if not, we can just deal with the rest like for next call. So. all we should really discuss in this course is advisory council stuff, I think. Yeah, I mean, I think that we have some improvement, but I think that we as in the ABC member, not the delegates, is not your fault. I think that I made a mistake of not having a guest speaker. I didn't realize that having a guest speaker can actually make a very, very big difference. I think especially in the early days, I think it makes sense to have them. All right then. I think that we, of course, didn't. Should we ask AB to commit to a certain work rule? AC? Oh, you mean like ABC, like ABC members, right? That's what you're meaning. Go code freezer. Or you mean like as a budget council? Sorry, code freezer. So can you? Yeah. Oh, okay, budget council. So should we ask budget council to commit to certain work group? I think that's what we're imagining, no? Because it's, I mean, even if they come as like a very part-time, like they will still have to do some work, right? At least give some guidance. All right, the frontier says, okay, now the chat is getting a little long. Let's see. Patrick's right. Governance school will be a tricky one because a tricky one to find good advisors. ADs could help suggest people to present. Yeah, I mean, I think the ADs can definitely suggest people to present that itself. But maybe it can be a little tricky, especially if it's outside maker. But I think for now, maybe that's okay. It's not that we didn't think about Patrick for the scope. It's just that we also had the one for Rafael, and also we thought that maybe talking about the document itself will be quite long, but I'll say the audience is quieter. So then I see Harmony said MakerDAO could bring in governance experts and other DAOs. All right, Patrick said would caution that as most DAOs don't have a governance apparatus anywhere near as complex as Maker, like fully on chain, others. So it's hard to have a lot of info. Yeah, although I guess caveat to that is that how many people really understand DAOs in the first place, especially Maker. I think it's a little bit difficult to find many of those. Okay, I think it's Bandhart. Bandhart say agreed. Most DeFi DAOs nowhere near the complete Maker. Even Aave, Compound, others very far away. Okay, but Bandhart say we can help them. Okay. Okay, true them say maybe we can have former contributors and former recognized delegate. Also possible. I don't think there's a rule against that. All right, so Jenskai wrote a pretty long one. Let's see. Time goes. So Maker identities for equity with going pretty different. Okay. Meritus. Regular assignments to be reputation. Maker docs folks here less than detailed position, merit-based assessment. Okay. So Jenskai, this is actually interesting. So I just want to ask you more details, just for me as well as the ABC and then delegates. Is like, so mean by metric as in like, so let's say that all of us become anon. Is that like what you're thinking, or like, or do you mean by like a council? So like as a budget council, like we shouldn't, for example, see whether they come from like DAO or others. Like we should just give them work, see whether they can perform. Is that what you're thinking? Also, Patrick said that okay, that was not equal, and then marry different approaches. It's the first step on the same DAOs. Lots of governance experts don't seem to even take this step. Okay. Yeah, I mean, also another problem is like, okay, if you just do based on merit, then like, then what kind of assignment do we give? And then, because it's also possible that the assignment that we're thinking might be also different, right? No one says totally, also many talented. Okay, true names responded to Jen Sky saying that many talented people from the beginning of the last delegate program left contributing entirely. Sure, but I also think that they might have come back because I'm seeing a lot of new random names. So I assume that some of them are back, and welcome back if that's the case. But yeah, I think a lot of good discussions, especially I think after the recent passage, especially regarding the NO1 requirement for delegates. I see that the discussion for both council members and other contributors is also becoming about like should they be anonymous and others. That's a pretty interesting discussion. I think that in the document, if you feel like there's also some of the even requirement for our ABC to consider, as in like they might be also helpful for growth in the long term, feel free to do so. But yeah, I think for today we have discussed quite a lot. Okay, and then Blue asks Patrick, where do you find the inspiration? By the way, I know that I do sound like one of those radios talking about the baseball, but kind of bear with me because I realize that when people watch the video, they can only see the text. So. All right, so Blue said, where do you find the inspiration? Who would you ask to present if you could? Patrick asked, inspiration for what? Governance? And we'll say yes. I think after this conversation, okay, Patrick says that he's a big fan and believe the long-form wisdom is governance hero. That is true. Okay, the plus, then should we ask him? I think we can also ask him to present, no? Okay. Yeah, sounds good. So maybe next time we can ask both Patrick and long-form wisdom whether they can present if possible. But I think that we had enough discussions for today. And then thank you. Well, before I say thank you, any topics that you want to discuss? Who ask who do what? Who reach out to long-form wisdom? I will reach out to him, no worries. And then if he says no, I'll be just sad and then go and drink beer myself, okay? Okay, so the discussion continues. So back to about the unknown side and the merit base. So Jen Sky responds to true name saying, remember garbage in, garbage out, and again philosophy opposes relying solely on social status. Our search should not aim to lock in the influence of Doc's ID. Let's prioritize expertise and merit instead. It's about building a strong foundation for the future of MakerDAO free from due biases. I think there can be some discussions about that. I'll say that we're slowly getting to the point where at least public that the like ID is becoming less important. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So maybe it's a gradual process. But once again, like if you think that that should be something that should be pushed from, let's say, individual council, like feel free to comment, and then we can see. Right. Then for today, let's close for now. For others, okay, let's see. In terms of non-maker governance people, Mark Zeller, Kevin Oakwood, doing good work. I was only that we would either get on the call. I think Mark Zeller might be willing to be on here because also I think he likes governance now, and also I think he likes us, hopefully. True. I mean, I like Mark Zeller, but I also like you, Patrick. So I want to have you and for wisdom next call. Please don't try to, reject my public request. It's okay. I'm used to getting rejected. Also, it's okay. It's not Valentine's. It's far past. But anyway, going back to it. So since like true name And then that guy having discussions about the oh no, it's not about the former delegates. But yeah, I mean, for former delegates too, like they can contribute, and then I don't think there's rules saying that former delegates cannot, for example, come to ABC calls or cannot contribute to Discord. In fact, I see, for example, GFX team contributing on the Discord a lot. It's just that my eyesight is not good enough to follow all of them, but I know they're still contributing, so it's definitely possible to also invite them to give a talk. All right, then I'm gonna close now, for good, because I fact that the discussions continue, so that's great. But I think that we're kind of going beyond the advisor console side. I think going into more meta side, and as much as I like philosophy 102, I don't want to take the course too much, so I think we can just end it here. Right, sounds good. And then yes, I'll reach out to both Patrick and Long for Wisdom with their time. If they don't want to join, it's okay. I'm not offended or sad. All right, bye everyone.